Thank you, Mr. Stringer. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I would like to also congratulate my honourable friend, the member for Ealing North, for an inspiring and passionate speech, and his image towards the end of his speech of Al Pacino playing Arthur Scargill will live with me for the rest of the day. Mr. Chairman, before I start, I must declare two interests. I'm the PPS to the Shadow Secretary of State for Business, Innovation and Skills. And in a previous life, I worked for the World Economic Forum, many of whose members were FTSE 500 companies. In fact, Mr. Chairman, I think my prior experience should reassure the City and our friends in the financial services sector that I am not here to attack them. On the contrary, I come here today with their best interests at heart. We all remember the events which led up to the collapse of Lehman Brothers and the tumultuous events of the ensuing months and years. Events which indeed changed the course of history and caused many of the troubles that the world is facing today: the sovereign debt crisis, chaos in the Eurozone, the freezing of public and private sector investment. A sluggish economy with a very uncertain future means that many who have been worst hit want to see the bankers, as they are characterized, punished. People feel that the law is broken, and those who broke it have been let off scot-free. But cool heads have prevailed, and blanket retribution has not been applied, which is a good thing. However, this government now seems to have swung far too far in the other direction, towards total and complete inaction, with the odd knighthood stripped bare, but little more to show for it. The City and the financial services sector need to be held accountable for their own good as much as for the public's, and our common interest should now be to rebuild trust. Right now, trust levels are at rock bottom. According to the Edelman Trust Barometer, financial services is the least trusted industry worldwide. Almost 60% of the British public rates the banking industry's performance as poor or very poor. That's simply not sustainable if we want the City to carry on thriving. And if we break the figures down, we see that in fact the City's trust score is artificially inflated by higher levels of trust in retail banks, whilst of those polled only 18% trust investment bankers and only 12% trust fund managers. In light of this fundamental breakdown in confidence, you can imagine how pleased I was, Mr. Chairman, to read the following paragraph in the Conservative Party's 2015 manifesto. And I quote, "We are making it a crime if companies fail to put in place measures to stop economic crime, such as tax evasion, in their organisations, and we are making sure that the penalties are large enough to punish and deter." This was, of course, music to our ears on this side of the House, and this is what makes the recent decision to backtrack on corporate liability all the more disappointing and puzzling, Mr. Chairman. I am concerned that, in backtracking on this vital manifesto pledge, government ministers will have opened themselves up to suggestions, totally unfounded of course, that they are acting on the demands of a number of those who donate large sums of money to the Conservative Party. I would urge the Minister today to consider dispelling these nasty rumours. Yeah. The Conservatives' courageous and correct manifesto commitment had teeth and was a wholly proportionate response to the fact that fraudulent activity was up 22% in the first half of 2015 compared to the first half of 2014. This isn't good for the financial security of our country or for the future of an industry that requires fundamentally public trust and backing more than ever before. Despite promises to the contrary, there have been no criminal sanctions for reckless management, nor have we seen any sign of the much-touted rule barring the managers of failed banks from running other companies. I want the City to succeed, Mr. Chairman, because it's vital to our economy, and I'm concerned that this government is too short-sighted to see what real long-term sustainable success means. Success, Mr. Chairman, means rebuilding trust and changing how the City is perceived. In closing, I would therefore like to make the following recommendations for smart regulation. First, this government must act on its own manifesto and enforce corporate liability. Criminal sanctions for bad management are almost universally supported by the public and are the key to establishing a new corporate culture that is based on transparency. Second, the government must act on the Treasury's national risk assessment of money laundering and financing terrorist activities by cracking down on professional enablers in the legal and accountancy sector. And third, the government must get serious about investing in the tools and technology necessary to keep pace with these criminals. We, on this side of the House, wish only to see a thriving financial services sector. In order for it to thrive and prosper, it must regain the trust of the British people and reclaim its license to operate. That is why the measures in the Conservative Party's manifesto were so welcome, and why it's so vitally important that they are urgently incorporated into law. It's absolutely right to be pro-business, Mr. Chairman, but it is wrong to be pro-business as usual.